Good morning everybody, and welcome back to another weekly recap. In the weekly recap, I'd like to go over any news related to the old school RuneScape community this week. Now, over the last couple of days, jagex has been asking for new suggestions for poll number 75, and today they have compiled them into a new proposed poll that we're going to be voting on very soon. This poll is going to include a substantial amount of PVM changes, quality of life changes, and really anything else that was kind of on the backlog this year. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's get started. Alright, so poll number 75 is going to be starting off with a couple of changes to the wilderness. Keep in mind this has not been voted on yet, so all of this is definitely subject to change. Now first up here we have a proposed solution to the wilderness bosses. Now since their inception back in 2014, the wilderness bosses have been a bit of a point of contention. Currently, the main way players actually kill the boss is usually by exploiting a very complicated safe spot. Now in today's poll, jagex has proposed two different solutions. Now one solution that was very popular on Twitter was actually to give the bosses a new ability that would freeze you whenever you're within 100 tiles of the boss. Now when you become frozen, you would actually remain frozen until the boss moves at least 100 tiles away from you. Now obviously the big benefit here is it would prevent players from safe spotting the boss because they couldn't move. And I'm not really sure about that one. That seems like that could be a little controversial. For the PvP community, they don't generally like stuff like that. Now, the second solution that they are proposing here would be a little bit different. Now, essentially, they would actually nerf the defensive bonuses of all of the wilderness bosses a substantial amount. They would actually bring them down to almost nothing. However, as a trade-off, they would actually make all of the wilderness bosses invisible, which would definitely add to the challenge. So sure, the wilderness bosses will be a lot easier to kill, but you won't be able to see them. So of course that is going to be a pretty solid trade-off. Okay, so that is it for the wilderness bosses, although there is another wilderness related change here. Now with this new poll, they are proposing a brand new item to be introduced into the game, which would be called the Spade Box. Now the Spade Box would work very similar to a regular clue box, and you could obtain it for 2 LMS points from Justine. So similar to the clue box, even if you die in a PvP death, you will actually keep your spade, which I think will be pretty awesome for players who are just trying to do clue scrolls. Now, unlike the clue box, you're actually able to bring more than one spade box at a time in case you have multiple spades. Alright, so next up here, we're actually going to be moving out of the wilderness for a couple of quality of life changes kind of scattered around Gielinor. Now, the next quality of life change would actually be to Chinchompas. They're actually going to be proposing a fairly fundamental change to how Chinchompas work. Now, essentially right now, gray Chinchompas, red Chinchompas, and black Chinchompas work in a very similar way. The only difference is going to be their damage numbers. However, with this change, jagex would actually be increasing or decreasing the radius of the explosion based on whatever Chinchompa you are using. Right now, the fact that all of the Chinchompas have the exact same radius can kind of be confusing to new players especially, and they do think that this would add to game clarity. So to make things very clear, they're going to be using a fairly simple new system. Now to start things off here, gray Chinchompas would actually remain the same. They'd be the same as the original at a 3x3 radius. Now moving on here to red Chinchompas, instead of having a 3x3 radius, they would now actually have a 3x3x3 radius, which should essentially be roughly a cube. This would allow red Chinchompas to hit birds in the air and just really increase the power of the mid-tier Chinchompa. Which means, of course, the black Chinchompa would now be increased to a 3x3x3x3 radius. We do understand that this would now allow players with black Chinchompas to actually attack opponents in the 4th dimension. However, we do feel like this would actually add kind of a stronger competitive element and might engage some players that we didn't even know existed in that terrestrial plane. Again, I do think this could be a little bit controversial, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Okay, so next up here, a very popular suggestion from players is actually a GE tax. So today they are going to actually officially be proposing a GE tax. Now with today's proposal, they are going to be suggesting a flat 100 GP tax across every single item that you trade. So for example, if you trade a Twisted Bow, that would just be a 100 GP tax. If you trade a Fire Rune, that would be a 100 GP tax. Now they do understand that this would actually have a fairly large impact on smaller trades especially. For example, if you do sell a Flak, you'll actually have to pay 96 GP for that privilege. This is of course open to discussion, but it would be introducing a massive and possibly necessary gold sink into the game. Okay, so the next section is on expanding Old School RuneScape's reach. Now with the hugely successful release of Oldschool Runescape on Steam, the marketing team is really working on getting Oldschool Runescape in front of new eyeballs. Now to help expand Oldschool Runescape's reach, they're going to be adding in new servers at different locations around the world that we didn't have before. Now of course, assuming that this poll is successful, we're going to be getting new servers in the following locations. We're going to be getting a new server in Greenland, a new server in Fiji, a new server in Kenya, another one in Borneo, and the final one is actually going to be going to the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station in Antarctica. Now if you do have an additional server location that you think would be good for Oldschool Runescape, we have created a thread on Reddit to collect your suggestions. Now in addition to this, the Oldschool Runescape team is hoping to actually port Oldschool Runescape to a few different consoles. Now we already have Oldschool Runescape Mobile, we have Oldschool Runescape on Steam, but starting in 2028, we are looking to port Oldschool Runescape to the PS Vita, the Wii U, and even the Soldier game console, which is really exciting. And that's pretty much it for quality of life changes. Well, at this point, you may or may not have figured out that none of these changes are actually real. None of these are happening. I just feel like I have to clarify with stuff like this. This was a joke. These suggestions are absolutely stupid. I made this idea up in about 5 minutes. No thought was put into this, so it will fit pretty well in with the rest of my channel. I guess April Fools? Anyway, I will be seeing you guys on Sunday with a new video, so I will see you guys then. Now before I go here, I want to give a massive thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. A huge thank you to Sage's Reign, Colin Corley, Timothy Chen, Guy Fox, 1227, Valhalla Lad, Brian Robinson, Brad Sings, Ocelot, and Kush Patel for all subscribing at the Dragon tier. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Also a big shout out to Base Titch, Branton Graffin, Birdbot, and All Things Gaming. As always, if you guys are looking for another way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is an awesome way to do so. You can become immortalized in all of my future videos, get access to my video release schedule, and of course get a custom role in my Discord server. Thanks again guys, and I will see you next time.